is pure evil.
The Netflix original series based on the life of Jeffrey Dahmer,
But when you hear him, that's another story.
is one of the most chilling productions.
I had these obsessive desires and thoughts wanting to control them.
Jeffrey Dahmer was responsible for murdering, dismembering, devouring, and violating 17 men. Unfortunately, the world's largest streaming company has been trying to hide a lot of information about this serial killer. Here are the 10 things Netflix doesn't want you to know about Jeffrey Dahmer, the Milwaukee cannibal. Number 10. Glenda Cleveland didn't even meet Jeffrey. One of the biggest inaccuracies I couldn't overlook is Glenda Cleveland's role in the show. In the first 5 minutes of the first episode, we can see Glenda knocking on Jeffrey's door. However, the real Glenda Cleveland did not live in the Oxford apartments. Instead, she resided in a different apartment building next door to the Oxford block. Her character seeks to represent Pamela Bass, a woman who lived in these apartments and interacted with Dahmer. Pamela Bass believed that Dahmer was a kind and nice man. She even went so far as to agree to eat one of his sandwiches, unsuspecting of the wicked atrocities his neighbor was committing just inches from her door.
Cutting up human bodies, eating body parts. I have eaten a sandwich from you. I have probably eaten someone's body part.
Therefore, she still shudders at the killer's memory. Number 9. Glenda did not discover Conrad synthesomphone. Conrad synthesomphone was a 14-year-old who became Dahmer's 13th victim. But most of us would remember him as the young man who could have escaped the serial killer's clutches and put him behind bars had it not been for the negligence of 2 police officers. Unfortunately, Conrad ended up being drugged, tortured, and murdered. However, there is a slight difference between the real story and the version presented on Netflix. According to the Netflix show, Cleveland found Conrad, but in real life, it was her niece, Nicole Childress, who saw the boy running from the building bloody and bruised. While awaiting for the police, Dahmer approached her, and when the officers arrived, they simply ignored her and focused on the killer's testimony. Therefore, Childress had no choice but to ask her aunt, Cleveland, for help, but when she returned, it was too late because the police, the killer, and the victim had disappeared. Shortly after that, Dahmer would make sure to get rid of Conrad once and for all and will commit 4 additional murders before being imprisoned. Number 8. Officers of the Year Awards. During episode 9, the cops, John Balkazak and Joseph Gabrish, can be seen being awarded the Officers of the Year. However, this couldn't be further from what actually happened. In real life, then Police Chief Philip Aureliou fired both officers for gross negligence that led to Conrad's death in 1991. Despite this, Balkazak and Gabrish appealed the decision and were reinstated with back pay in 1994. Yet, the stain on Conrad's death would forever tarnish their careers. Number 7. Dahmer did not meet Conrad outside a liquor store. In episode 2, Jeffrey Dahmer offered to buy alcohol for a group of guys. Among them was Conrad synthesomphone, his future victim who would end up suffering hell at the hands of the psychopath. In the real story, however, Dahmer used to hang out at Milwaukee's Grand Avenue Mall. There, he met many of his victims, including young Conrad. On May 26, 1991, Dahmer offered Conrad a sum of money in exchange for the teenager posing nude for a photo shoot. Unfortunately, this decision would ultimately become the cause of his tragic death. Number 6. Conrad never knew Dahmer was responsible for sexually abusing his brother. The synthesomphone family first heard about Dahmer after the man approached Conrad's older brother. In September 1988, Somsak synthesomphone agreed to be photographed by Dahmer and accompanied him to his apartment, unaware that he would be drugged and sexually abused. After the fact, Dahmer pleaded guilty to second-degree sexual assault in January 1989. However, in the Netflix series, they never mentioned Somsak's name. Instead, they simply refer to him as Conrad's older brother. Another inaccuracy that I have noticed is that Conrad did not know that Dahmer had been responsible for violating his brother. To make matters worse, the killer was unaware of the relationship between the two boys, so they met by an unpleasant coincidence of fate. When police found Conrad bloodied, naked, and drugged, Jeffrey claimed the boy was his 19-year-old lover. That's why officers took Cynthia phone back to Dahmer's apartment, where the body of one of the cannibal's victims was lying in an adjoining room. 30 minutes later, Conrad was murdered. Number 6. His grandmother never threw away his dummy. In episode 4, Dahmer arrives home to discover that he has just lost his dummy. Then, he calmly confronted his grandmother and found she had thrown away his mannequin. Afterward, Jeffrey becomes enraged and screams in his grandmother's face. However, things were slightly different in real life. According to the records, Dahmer believed that his grandmother had contacted his father to tell him that his son had a disturbing mannequin in the bedroom. So to prevent his father from thinking badly of him, he destroyed it and threw it in the trash. While not a significant inaccuracy, this fact proves that the relationship between Dahmer and his grandmother was not as hostile as we believed. But since shows need to create drama, I think this is one lie we can forgive them for. Number 5. He didn't like to drink blood. As the series shows, Dahmer used to work as a phlebotomist at the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center, but he was never a fan of drinking blood. In one of the show's scenes, we can see Dahmer drinking a bag of blood in front of the bathroom mirror exaggeratedly. But according to the 1991 trial, a forensic psychiatrist named Park Dietz claimed that Dahmer had admitted to drinking a vial of blood to see how it tasted, and he did it while at work, not at home, as the show would have us believe. However, Dahmer found no pleasure in this, so he spat out the blood he had drunk. Strange for a serial killer who enjoyed eating human flesh. Number 4. Dahmer's real neighbors didn't suspect him. According to the series, her neighbor Glenda feared the killer. She was suspicious of his activities but could not prove what the psychopath was doing or how to stop him. In real life, however, her neighbor Pamela Bass thought he was a nice guy, but she wasn't the only one who could not see the misdeeds going on inside the cannibal's apartment. Although Dahmer's apartment smelled of urine, his neighbors never complained that there was a smell of human flesh decomposing or that anything out of the ordinary was happening. In fact, one of his neighbors stated that Dahmer looked more like a geek than a killer. He also mentioned Dahmer's secretive and strange attitude, but nothing that would draw too much attention or raise suspicions. Number 3. His father did not teach him to dissect stuffed animals. Another of the big lies that Netflix has told us is that Jeffrey's fascination with dissecting roadkill came from Lionel, his father, who encouraged this activity and even taught him how to do it. However, we have great proof that this never really happened. Lionel Dahmer wrote in his book, A Father's Story, that his son had a great interest in chemistry and biology, and since he had a PhD in chemistry, he tried to teach his son a few things about it. Although Lionel taught his son about preserving animal bones, he never explained or showed him how to dissect roadkill. This was something the killer learned on his own. Number 2. Dahmer never wore glasses at the trials. Near the end of the series, we get to see Jeffrey Dahmer go on trial for his murders committed. Even if it was recreated with excellent accuracy, there was one detail that I couldn't overlook. In all these scenes, we can see Dahmer use his characteristic glasses to present himself at the trial. However, the real Jeffrey Dahmer tried to avoid wearing glasses for a reason you wouldn't imagine. He wanted to avoid looking the jury and the victims' families in the face. Although it may seem like a minor inaccuracy, this is one of the most essential facts about the killer's last days, as it proves that Jeffrey was incapable of facing his crimes. Number 1. It was never known if Dahmer killed Dean Vaughn. According to episode 7, Glenda met Dean Vaughn, a new resident of the Oxford apartments, and tried to warn him to watch out for some of the tenants. 2 weeks later, Dean Vaughn was found strangled in his apartment. Nevertheless, Dahmer was questioned twice about Dean Vaughn's death and denied ever meeting him. Given that the killer was forthcoming in providing details of the 17 murders he had committed, some investigators believe he was not lying. Despite this, the Netflix series decided to include the boy and leave Dahmer's guilt implicit, although there is no evidence connecting the Milwaukee cannibal to the crime. But what do you say? Do you think Dean Vaughn could have been murdered by Jeffrey Dahmer, or maybe his death was an unfortunate coincidence? We'll be reading you in the comments. That is all for today. I hope you liked the video. Thanks for watching. Till next time.